Shabbat Shalom. Our pre-service song tonight is going to be Am I Awake? Performed by Noah Aronson as we all come into our space tonight, whether on Zoom, on YouTube, or from wherever we are joining tonight.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So here we are gathering on Zoom, on YouTube Live, in all of the places and the spaces where we are celebrating Shabbat on this Shabbat evening that in some ways is very similar to our other Shabbatot together on YouTube, and in some ways, for those of us especially who are local to Or Hadash, but maybe not even so local, but who are members of the Or Hadash congregation, a little bit of a different, special, heightened Shabbat, because this is the Friday night of our Shabbaton in our home. This evening, families gathered to braid challah together, including some cinnamon bun and cinnamon sugar challah. We gathered together to light Shabbat candles before dinner, some of us, and now we are back together for services. Tomorrow morning, we will gather for Torah study in 6 different modalities. A little bit of a choose your own adventure, which in fact is the theme of this Shabbaton in your home. That as we move through Shabbat, there are times when we gather all together, and there are times when we gather with our loved ones, either digitally, or if we are lucky enough to live with our loved ones in the same house, physically, and spend some time in the way that feels special and restful and elevated to us. Maura Barbara, our education director, has been hard at work designing this Shabbaton in our home. that on Shabbat afternoon, for those that have the Shabbaton in your home gift bags, and I think that it's also posted on our Or Hadash website, there is a little choose your own adventure list of activity suggestions for Shabbat afternoon in the categories shh, calm and relaxing activities, ba, active from the verb lavo, meaning to come or to go in Hebrew, shh, ba, and t, with a t sound. And this one's a little bit of a poetic license because the t category are things that have to do with teva, with nature, which of course starts with the letter tet, but Shabbat ends with the letter tav, but it's phonetic. And so sh activities, ba activities, and t activities for you to choose your own way to experience Shabbat afternoon. And then we'll come back together tomorrow night for a Havdalah as a whole community on Zoom, and then break out into different tracks. Some of us will do some Quizzo trivia online. Some of us will make bedtime Shema pillowcases, perhaps our youngest ones, or maybe a perfect grandparent-grandchild activity. Some of us will sing together and relax and schmooze after Havdalah, but from braiding our challah this afternoon all the way to Havdalah and our activities tomorrow evening, we opt in and out and through as we choose our own adventure and carve our own path through this Shabbaton in our home. And so tonight as we gather, and for those of us who haven't yet lit our Shabbat candles, we're going to start by lighting our candles here in community. Many of us lit earlier in our homes. I actually was not at that gathering, so my candlesticks are all ready to be lit, as I hope yours are too. And so a quick Shabbat Shalom to those who are gathered together as we light our Shabbat candles. Shabbat Shalom to John and all of you out there in Athens, Georgia, down in Or Hadash South. Shabbat Shalom to Rich and Eileen and Carolyn, whose beautiful faces I see here on Zoom with me. Shabbat Shalom. And to take a second and introduce yourselves in the chat, whether on Zoom or on YouTube. So that we can gather together in community and see one another's faces, either physically or metaphorically, as together we light our Shabbat candles. And you'd think that a year into this, I'd be able to light the candles without cutting off my own head on the screen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Yadaranai nai nai, yadaranai nai nai, yadaranai ai ai nai nai, yadanai nai nai, yadaranai nai nai, yadaranai nai nai, yadaranai ai ai nai nai, yadanai nai nai, yadaranai ai ai, yadanai nai ai, yadaranai ai ai nai nai, yadanai nai nai, yadanai nai ai ai, yadanai nai nai. Page 7. Yedid nefesh avarahaman mishoch avdecha el retzonecha yarutz avtecha kemo hayal yishtachaveh el mul hadarecha teravlo yeditutecha mino fetu Last verse. Higalena ufros chavivi halai hatzukat shalomecha tairetz michvodecha nagila v'nismecha bach maher ahuf kiva moed v'choneni ki me'olam yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai 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 yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai 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 yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai nai yaradanai nai nai yaradanai And Shabbat Shalom to Dan and Barbara and Boo, who have joined us since we last said Shabbat Shalom, and to Jules and Ruth and Taco, and to Judy and Jeff. And as you come in, whether on Zoom or on... And to Jules and Ruth and Taco, Judy, someone needs to mute their YouTube live stream. Or on... There we go. It's Barbara needs to mute her YouTube live stream. There we go. But I muted you in the Zoom, so that's okay. So as you come on, please do introduce yourself in the chat, either on Zoom or on YouTube, so that we can see one another and greet one another as we enter into Shabbat together on this Friday night that is also our Shabbaton in our home. And we're going to continue with Kabbalat Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem on page 13. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzetzchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Page 31 at the asterisk. Or zarua latzadik, latzadik, hu yishrei lev simcha simcha yananai nai nai. Or zarua latzadik, latzadik, hu yishrei lev simcha simcha yananai nai nai. Yanai nai 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 yavadavadai. Yanai nai 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 yananai nai nai. Yanai nai 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 nai. Yay, nay, 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 yay, hi. Or zarua latzadik, ulei yishrei lev simcha, simcha, simcha. simcha, or zarua latzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha simcha, or zarua latzadik, ul yishrei lev simcha simcha, yananai nai nai, yananai nai 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 nai, yananai nai, yananai nai nai, yananai nai nai, yananai nai 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 nai, yananai nai, yananai nai nai, yananai nai nai, yai or zarua latzadik, ule yishrei lev simcha, simcha simcha, or zarua latzadik, ule yishrei lev simcha simcha, or zarua latzadik, ule yishrei lev simcha simcha, yananai. Page 37, we turn to Psalm 29, and as we rise in spirit or in body, I want to invite you to, as you rise, to feel or invite in that neshama yetera, that extra soul peace, that little bit of spiritual accompaniment that we are taught comes and dwells with us during Shabbat. Psalm 29 speaks about God using language that is full of brawn and physical strength. And so often we think of that neshama yetera, that extra soul peace, as an extra boon to our spiritual strength. But perhaps also, and I've been thinking about this a lot, as we hit this 1 year mark, however and whenever we mark that 1 year mark. Is it 1 year since we first shut down? Is it 1 year on the Gregorian calendar, 1 year on the Hebrew calendar? Is it 1 year since the first documented case globally, since the first documented case in the United States, since the first person passed from COVID-19, or perhaps 1 year since COVID-19 began to impact your own life? However and whenever we begin that count, whenever we hit that 1 year mark for ourselves, I don't know about you, but I feel after this year quite a bit run down, fatigued, tired, stretched. If not physically, then certainly my creativity, my capacity. And so perhaps that neshama yetera, that extra soul peace, can not only be spiritual strength that we welcome in with these 25 hours of Shabbat, these 25 hours of rest, but perhaps some oz, some physical strength, some gvura, some oomph, as it were. That one's not in Hebrew, that last one. Oz and gevura are, oomph is more of the universal language of onomatopoeia. But perhaps as that neshama yetera, that extra soul peace, comes in and rests with us during Shabbat, we get a physical recharge, a boost, some extra energy, some extra strength, as we turn and rise in body or in spirit for Psalm 29 on page 37. Mizmor LeDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai, Kavod v'oz, Havul Adonai, Kevod Shemo, Ishtachavu Adonai b'hadrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai b'koach, Kol Adonai shover, where am I? Arazim, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaver Adonai et arzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kmo hegel Levanon, Vesirion ken כמו בין ראה ממאי. כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יחיל מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יכול לעלות, ויחשוף יערות, ובהיכלו כולו אומר כבוד, הפו אדוני למבול ישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. Page 41. Lecha dodi likrat kalai penei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmianu el hameyuchat Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet ve'litechila lecha dodi likrat kalai penei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mikor haberacha merosh mikedem nesu chasof maaseh b'machshava techila lecha dodi likrat kalai penei Shabbat nekabela. Top of page 45. Hitoreri kiva orech kumi uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kalai penei Shabbat nekabela. Top of page 47. Yamin usmol tifrat tziveit Adonai taritzi al yad ish ben partika ben ismecha venagila lecha dodi likrat kalai penei Shabbat nekabela. We rise in spirit or in body as we face the entrances to our homes, perhaps facing outwards into the world towards one another, imagining that we can catch a glimpse not only of the Shabbat bride, but of each and every one of the people who are here with us greeting Shabbat together. Boi v'shalom ateret balagam besimcha uvetzocholata chemunei am segula boi chala lecha dodi likrat kalai penei Shabbat nekabela. yain, yain, yain. Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat, a song, a special song, a singy song for the day of Shabbat. Tov lahodot ladonai. It is good to give thanks to God, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, and to sing out to that holy name. So I want to invite you to share in the chat, whether on YouTube or in Zoom, something that you are so grateful for, either right now in this moment or in this week, or just in your life in general right now in this world, that you so grateful that you would want to sing out. What are you holding gratitude that strong for in your life? Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot lahadonai, Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, Lehagid baboker chastecha, ve'emunatcha b'leilot, alei asur ve'alei navel, alei higayon bechinor. Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot lahadonai, Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ki semachtani Adonai befo'alecha, b'ma'aseh yadecha haranein. Ma gadlu ma'asecha Adonai, me'od amku machshevotecha. Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot lahadonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot lahadonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. We sing out with gratitude for our family, for community, for second shots for both of us, more family, getting my first shot on Sunday morning. Grateful for each other and for our family. Grateful that sometimes the rabbi sings the right tune to Lecha Dodi. Unfortunately, tonight she sang the wrong one. Sorry about that, although I know that you didn't put it in for gratitude. So many things to sing out for, and I would add to that list, I wasn't able to type on either one. As those who have been with me throughout this pandemic know, bad things happen when I try to talk and type at the same time. But I would add to that list singing out with gratitude for those first signs of spring that are coming up through the soil, especially seeing those bright purple crocuses. They are warming my heart so much right now. And so with all of those things with which we feel we are so filled with gratitude that we would rise up and sing, shout out to that divine name. We rise in spirit or in body for Baruch Hu on page 57. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. And the blessing gives us strength and makes our vision clear. And the blessing gives us peace and the courage to dare. As we bless the source of life, so we are blessed. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher bidvaro mariv aramim bechokma poteach sharim uvivuna mishanei etim. Umavir yom umevi laila umavdil ben yom uvein laila Adonai tzvaot shemo elechai v'kayam tamidim lo chalenu leolam vaed baruch atah Adonai amariv aravim. And Jules and Ruth, do you guys have a physical Siddur in front of you? Yay or nay? Would you be willing to read for us the interpretive Ahavat Olam on page 61? To unmute.
Turn in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
We are loved by an unending love.
We are embraced by arms that find us even when we are hidden from ourselves.
We are touched by fingers that soothe us, even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us, even when we are too embittered to hear. We are loved by an unending love.
We are supported by hands that uplift us even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved by an unending love.
Embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love.
Blessed are you, beloved one, who loves your people, Israel.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
I know.
Page 65, the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והיה עם שמות ישועות. We continue silently with one of the two biblical selections that follows. אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 77 at the bottom and page 79 we reach Micha Mocha, our song of liberation and freedom. And it's also our song, perhaps, of marking perseverance in the journey. I spoke a couple of weeks ago, and I want to just give a quick framing now as well, that at the time that the Israelites crossed the sea as they emerged from slavery in Egypt into the wilderness, yes, they were crossing from slavery into freedom, and that was something to celebrate, but they were also crossing from a place of enslavement and tightness and narrowness into a wilderness, into the unknown, into a place where the rules, though loosened, though able to be defined by them and not by their masters, were unset. And there were many times over the course of especially the early chapters of the book of Exodus, when our ancient mythic ancestors, these former enslaved Israelites, or proto-Jews, Hebrews, asked Moses to allow them to go back to Egypt, because at least there they knew what to expect. And so I want to offer, as we sing Michamocha tonight, this song of freedom, this song of liberation, this song that so marks the season that we are heading into of springtime and Pesach, that it's a song that also marks that we can hold joy and also anxiety as we leave Mitzrayim, as we move from enslavement into freedom, because as we cross through those waters and cross into the wilderness, we may feel freer, but we may also feel a loss of the security of knowing what to expect, the security of parameters, of, even if we find them oppressive, of norms that we could trust and that we knew others were also holding. And so I feel like in every moment we always say that we sing Mi Chamocha, a song so ancient that it is written itself in the Torah, and yet so timeless that we feel that it can fit into almost any moment. And so here now too, as we are in this moment of the beginning of the middle, perhaps, of the vaccine rollout. I don't think we're really at the beginning anymore. Maybe the beginning of the middle, who knows? And certainly at the beginning of the end of this long, cold winter, as we emerge into springtime, as we emerge into perhaps beginning to see the light at the end of this long, dark tunnel of COVID-19. And as we stand here also approaching Pesach, we sing Mi Chamocha. We sing these ancient and timeless words, and we hear them resonate through our neshama, through our soul, just as they have resonated through the souls of each and every generation of those who have sought freedom and release. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך מי כמוך מי כמוך מי כמוך מי כמוך מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך, מי כמוך, מי כמוך, מי כמוך, מי כמוך, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה, ולנורא תהילות עושה, מלכותך ראובנך בוקי הים לפני משה זה לי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ואת אדוני ימלוך לעולם כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל. Page 81. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, ועמידנו מלכנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Sukkot Shalomecha. Ushmor tzeitenu vo'enu l'chaim u'l'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha. Baruch ata Adonai, haporei sukkot shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'al Yerushalayim. And we rise in spirit or in body on page 85 for V'shamru. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, בינו ובני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. And as a prelude to our Amidah silently recited on in the evenings and on Friday nights, Rich, I want to invite you to unmute, and if you could read for us the poem Dear God at the bottom of page 88.
Dear God, open the block passageways to you, the congealed places. Roll away the heavy stone from the well as your servant Jacob did when he beheld his beloved Rachel. Help us open the doors of trust that have been jammed with hurt and rejection, as you open the blossoms in spring, even as you open the heavens in storm. Open us to feel your great, awesome, and wonderful presence.
Thank you, Rich. And we'll take a moment, rise in spirit or in body, and make our way silently through the Amidah, which begins on page 91 in our Siddur. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi ki tehilatecha. Open my lips, beloved one, and let my mouth declare your praise. Use shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ya'aseh shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imeru. Amen. And Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back from our private, silent Amidah, our time for individual reflection during our service, as we move into our Mishaberach Lecholim, our prayer for healing and wholeness. I want to say Shabbat Shalom and welcome to Vivian, who has joined us since last we said Shabbat Shalom, and also to Harriet up in Riverdale. And if there's anyone else who hasn't yet introduced yourselves in the chat, to take a second and do so, because it is at moments like this, during Lechadodi, and again, especially during our Mishaberach Lecholim, our prayer for healing and wholeness, and then feeding right into our Kaddish, when we truly come together as a community, sharing all of those whom we're thinking of for healing tonight, for Mishaberach, celebrating our simchas together at Kaddish, seeing each one another's faces and noticing who's with us at Lechadodi, right? These moments where it's important that we are here together synchronously, not asynchronously. Those times when our schedules, when they sync up, it matters because we're here and we're together. We go with magic, kind of. We go from this moment where we are alone, from one moment where we're alone in our homes, and we click a button, and magically, we're not alone anymore. We're here in community, in real time with one another. And our Mishaberach Lecholim, as we turn our hearts and our minds to those who are in need of healing in our lives, and we share them in the chat, on YouTube or on Zoom, or perhaps on Zoom we unmute ourselves when I pause between the two verses as well, and we can share them out loud and hear one another's voices, that we also see not only who is with us, but each and every one of the people who each of us is holding, because we each contain a world, a concentric circle ever expanding of community, of people we care about. And when we hear the name of someone on someone else's list that we also care about, there's a connection, a sacred connection. Or maybe when we hear our own name on someone's list, there's a connection because we notice, we know that we're being thought of and we're being loved, or our loved one is in someone else's heart as well. And those circles collide. And again, something magical happens. So we turn to our prayer for healing and wholeness. And perhaps we not only pray for that healing and wholeness, but in hearing these names, hearing these overlapping circles of community, we are brought some wholeness too. And so we'll share for the Mishaberach tonight the voices of our Makela, our choir.
Mishaberach Avotenu Bekor HaBracha Imotenu let us say
And this evening, we're thinking of and sending our hopes and our energy for healing and wholeness to Andrea Abrams Herbert, James Alberts, Roberta Archibald, Arden Bell, Barry Bell, Carol Mueller Bell, Rabbi Deborah Bowen, Sarah Sarulnik, Bill Conrad, Robin Kupo, Francesca Dever, Faye Fishman, Brian Flaherty, Joan Flaherty, Eric Gershman, Jonathan Giannini, Patrick Gibson, George and Gail Glansberg, Hal Goodman, Talia Gottesman, Barbara Granger, Ed Grimes, Amy Gross, Alberta Hall, Cordula Hamish, Peter Hoagland, Chava Hurley, Michelle Kalish, Sharon Cass, Beverly and Howard Kaufman, Fran Kaufman, Elsie Lieberstein, Len McEwen, Robert Mueller, Anthony Nero, Lisa Nicholson, Riley and Thomas Pablo, Stan Pollock, Abby Rosenberg, Mike Rosenberg, Shelley Sanders, Bertha Schwartz, Margaret Steiber, Lloyd Suter, Jeff Taylor, Lynn Van Engel, Isabel Vita, Stan Weckstein, Millie Weissman, Grace Zangwill, Sonia Frischman Zangwill, Eileen Zeff, and let me go back to here. Doug Proudman, Rob Johnson, Nancy Catelli, Rich Davis, where am I? Here I am. Talia Gottesman, Millie Weissman, Catherine Clark Weldon, Richard Krasen, Jonathan Loeb, Arnold Salomon, Karen Griffey, all of those who are suffering from COVID, are essential workers, anyone needing strength and healing. Eric Griffin Shelley, Rosine Paul, Debbie Hoffman, Jean Horowitz. Are there others? Dorothy Berlin. And
מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
we turn from our Mishaberach Lecholim to Kaddish on page 119, where we rise in spirit or in body and we raise up our glasses filled to overflowing with sweet Kaddish wine or juice. So I want to invite people to share in the chat anything that you're celebrating. What are we raising our glass to this evening? We had a couple of birthdays at Or Hadash last week, so we raise our glasses to some 10th and some 12th birthdays this week. And what else are we raising our glass to today? We're raising our glass to community. Thank you, Carolyn. Raising our glass to a warm community honoring Shabbat together. Thanks, Boo. Or maybe it was Barbara or Dan. I think it was probably Boo that typed it. I'd like to imagine that. That's what's happening in my head canon. It was Boo. Oh, good. A very talented dog. Taco has his own Jib Jab account, but Boo can type. And so we raise our glass to community, to birthdays, to celebrating together, raising our glass to life, l'chaim. And now it's going to be stuck in our heads all night long, Judy. But that's good. It's always good to have a little fiddler stuck in our heads. And to all of the wonderful things we celebrate as we move into this new week. And and to unmute yourselves if you're on a format that can, as we say a big l'chaim. Savri chaverai.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki eleinu karata ve'otanu kidashta la'avodatecha V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
L'chaim.
Chaim. And we remain in the position that we are in right now for Aleinu, page 121. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shenatan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu notei shamayim v'yosed haaretz u'moshe v'yom. Okay, nekabel chadon Eloheinu. כי המלכות שלהם ימלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Can be seated. So, as we turn to page 131 for Mourner's Kaddish, we also turn in our hearts and our memories to those whom we've loved and lost. And I want to, as a prelude to Kaddish, before I share our list and our list of folks for whom we're sitting Shiva for in Shloshim, observing a Yortzeit with somewhere within the 11 months, perhaps. I want to share a poem, a reflection, a prayer called Shed a Tear, Say a Prayer by Suzanne Sabaransky. I'm sharing it via Ritual Well. For those of you who are not familiar with it, ritualwell.org is a tremendous website, clearinghouse of contemporary Jewish ritual and poetry and liturgy. It is a project of reconstructing Judaism, but over the, I think about 15, 20 years now that Ritual Well has been in existence, it has grown far, far larger and wider reaching than our movement could ever have imagined. And is really a tremendous pluralistic clearinghouse for contemporary Jewish liturgy, writing, ritual, and reflection. And so I'm going to go ahead and share this via sharing my screen. But is there someone here on Zoom who wants to unmute themselves and be our reader?
Sure.
Barbara, go ahead.
Who were we when it began? Life was normal, so we thought. We looked at the morning news. We packed our lunches as usual. We took our kids to school. We went to restaurants, visited our friends. A lifetime ago, we sang together. Then the doors closed on us. We shed a tear. We prayed. We watched as people were dying. But it wasn't us, not yet. Too slowly, we learned to fear. We became germaphobes, hoarding toilet paper and disinfectant wipes, scared to even touch or breathe. Months passed and we grew lazy. Even as more people became infected, we were determined to go back, to return to what we knew, to become normal. And we did become normalized again, not the old, a new normal. We watched as death tolls rose, become increasingly blasé, wanting our freedom. Soon, dying wasn't scaring us anymore. People became numbers, numbers beyond belief, thousands, tens of thousands, still more, 100,000, 300,000. And today we reached a milestone, a horrible, saddening 500,000. A number hard to even comprehend, a number which no longer shocks, a number which should be unfathomable, a number of human lives lost. Today, we must reclaim our hearts. Today, we must reclaim our souls. Today, we must be outraged again, and we must shed a tear, one for each who has departed, and say our prayers for them.
Thank you, Barbara. So, even as we read this piece just now tonight, we note that even in the 1 month since it was written, the world has changed even a little bit since then. And I want to invite us to also in the chat tonight share if there's someone who should be on our Kaddish list, who's on your own personal Kaddish list, who you've lost, or who you know of a friend losing to COVID-19, so that we can see their names here tonight. Because although we marked at Or Hadash sort of the 1 year anniversary of the pandemic, the Shabbat after Purim, because we sort of marked it on the Jewish calendar, we've said sort of throughout this pandemic, and we've reflected, and it's still true tonight as we reach the 1 year mark on the secular calendar of the shutdown here in Pennsylvania and Montgomery County, that we are still in the period of 11 months. That period after the passing, after the burial of a loved one, during which we say Kaddish. And for the vast majority of the more than 1.5 million Americans who have lost their lives, and what is it, like 2.8 million across the world, who have lost their lives to COVID-19, we are still within those 11 months, especially as we know that the pandemic intensified over its sort of second 6 months, not those first 6 months, that for the vast majority of those more than 500,000 Americans and millions of people worldwide, we are still in those 11 months of saying Kaddish. And so we hold each and every one of them in our hearts, because each and every one of them had a family, had a story, had a life, and are just as close and as loved by someone left on this earth as are our own. And this week we are in a period of Shloshim, the month following the passing of David Raisman, husband of Lucy Raisman, father of Rebecca and Josh, and Shloshim for Ellen Stewerman, wife of Manny Stewerman, and Shiva for Ellen just ended a few days ago. We also are in the 11 months following the passing of Don Wolfe, Carolyn's father, and also saying Kaddish for the Yortzeit, the anniversaries of the passing of Bob Arrow, fiance of Penny Aronson, Rosemary F. Markovitz, mother of Max Markovitz, Lillian Zubo, mother of Rick Zubo, Michael Elfman, nephew of Betty Kahn, Manny Margolis, uncle of Marty Jacobs, Arabelle Kapnick, mother of Shelley Kapnick Rosenberg, Rose Lieberman, mother of Edith Lane, and Esther Malkin, mother of Richard Malkin. So I want to invite mourners and those observing a Yortzeit to And also we're saying Kaddish for John Leach. And I think Marianne added John as someone who passed this year from COVID-19. Thank you, Marianne. So I want to invite mourners and those observing a yortzeit to rise in spirit or in body for Mourner's Kaddish, along with those whose tradition it is to rise for Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemeh Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemeh tekudsha
Rechu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael ve'el kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing for all of us. So, Erev Tov, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. It is great to see faces here on Zoom tonight. It is great to see folks participatory and active in the chat on YouTube. It is tremendous to see people for the first time in a long time, and it's also tremendous to see people who we see every single week at Friday night services. I feel like there has been, one of the things that I about a year ago was really wondering about was a feeling of community at services. That it's one thing to daven and to log in to davening, right? To log in to synagogue. But would we feel that sense of community? And I feel like we have. I feel like we do. And those of you who have become Friday night regulars online, maybe you were Friday night regulars already and you just kept at it. Maybe you're a new Friday night regular. I would love to hear your impressions. Do email me at rabbi@orhadash.com. To see if I'm, am I right? Do we feel community? Like, yeah, what has this experience been like, especially as we begin to contemplate what spiritual life at Or Hadash looks like, feels like, incorporates post-pandemic, although that's still quite a ways down the road. But as the weather warms and we begin to consider things like hybrid services outdoors, or into the fall as we think about possibly gathering together again, not sure when that is going to be. And it still feels to me, at least, like it's so far out on a horizon. But as we begin to think about it, I would love to hear from folks, especially folks who've gathered regularly on Friday nights, or if you've just tapped in periodically, perhaps when you've had a yortzeit, or when you have family who's also logging in, or grandchildren who are coming into town, or grandparents who are coming into town, and you want to come to services all together. I do email me at rabbi@orhadash.com and share some reflections, because I'd love to hear your voices also in this conversation about what has been gained, because as we find whatever that next iteration of our new normal is, we don't just want to go back to what was. We want to think about what can be and what lessons we've learned from this 1 year plus of being exclusively online, because we've learned a lot about what it means to gather and what it means to seek spiritually, what it means to build community across time, space, time zones, and to share smachot, share joyful moments and share hard moments with people who are not in the same space physically as us. And so I just wanted to put that out there. And I see Carolyn, who is one of our co-chairs of spiritual life, nodding her head. So I think she's happy that I mentioned that. Also, I spoke at length about it at the beginning of services, but not everyone was here. So I just want to say briefly, this Shabbat is in some ways similar to other Shabbatot, and in some ways very different, because this weekend, thanks to the hard work and the wonderful creativity and innovation of our education director, Barbara Weissman, this Shabbat is our Shabbaton in your home. So challah baking and braiding and community candle lighting and Friday night services are now in the books. But tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. we regather on Zoom. It's the same link all weekend long for Torah study, and it's also a Shabbat biyachad, our intergenerational Shabbat morning. So we'll be looking at our Torah portion this week through multiple lenses, including our traditional text-based Torah study, but also through the lens of engineering and a textiles discussion, and what else? Oh, sense, memory, and smells, beautiful objects and treasures, sort of nostalgia, through many different lenses. And then we'll gather together for Shabbat morning services, which are a little bit different from Shabbat morning services that we have had recently, because Barbara has conceived for us a candy Shabbat. And so if you have not yet received or have not yet gone to Or Hadash to pick up your candy bag and your Shabbaton in your home bag, I think our fobs still work until midnight. So and after like 7 a.m. So do go over and pick it up if you need your bag. But also you can also BYO. I believe that all the materials are up on the website. Services are at 10 a.m. And then I spoke earlier a lot about the choose your own adventure in the afternoon, our ba and t options for choosing your own adventure activities and suggested ways of being throughout the afternoon. And then we regather together on Zoom for Havdalah, and then breakout activities after Havdalah, a quizzo, a crafting project, a time for gathering and singing, and so it's going to be a really, really wonderful time to be together in different ways throughout this weekend, all before we spring forward our clocks on Saturday night. So there we go. Just think, you get to stay up 1 hour later on Saturday night after Havdalah, and it'll feel like you're staying up 2 hours later. Yeah, it works better in the fall. Next year, Shabbaton in your home will be in the fall. No, I'm just kidding. So I also want to mention just one other piece. And that's that Passover is coming up. And in addition to some wonderful resources that we'll be sending out, we are also coordinating a digital Seder matching this year. We are not yet in a place where we feel comfortable entering into the foray of physical Seder matching. Anyone who is looking for in-person Seders will have to do that on their own. But Carol Burson is taking on the mantle of digital Seder matching. So if you are finding that you are going to be by yourself or in a much smaller group than you were hoping to be in for Pesach, and you want to connect to others, we have a number of hosts who have places at their digital Seders. We have a number of people. Did I not say Cheryl Burson? Oh, I did not. Okay, I must have said the wrong name. Sorry. Cheryl Burson is doing our Seder matching. Yes, and a number of people who are seeking spaces. So if you are a host and you're doing something really wonderful at your digital Seder, and you are interested in having a few more people, please also contact Cheryl. Information for that is in HaKesher, our newsletter. So many other wonderful things going on. So please do check out our Or Hadash website, www.orhadash.com. To see all of the wonderful things that are going on across the synagogue, both on Zoom, on YouTube Live, and in all of the other ways that we gather together. And so I just want to say Shabbat Shalom from our home to your home and to all of your homes. It has been wonderful sharing this Shabbat together. And so we'll sing ourselves out a little bit with Adon Olam on page 133. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yetzir nivra li'ed nasa b'chafso kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol Levado yimloch nora, vehu haya, vehu hove, vehu yihye betifara, vehu yihye betifara, vehu echad v'hein sheni, lehamshilo lehachbira, beli reishit, beli tachlit, velo haoz, v'hamischa, velo haoz v'hamisra, vehu eli v'chai gohali, v'tzor chavli b'yetzara, vehu nisi umanos li, menat kosi beyom ekra, menat kosi beyom ekra, beyado hafkid ruchi, b'yed ishan v'ha'ira, ve'im ruchi gaviati, Adonai li velo ira, Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat Shalom.